Hello everyone, I'm Lizzie from Moonlight Gleams Bookshelf, and today I'll be participating in Vlog It, hosted by Rachel at Power Junkies View. This is where readers just grab a book they're reading and a video camera and just start reading. So today I'll be sharing with you all a short excerpt from My Love Eternal by Liz Strange. This is the first novel in the Dark Kiss trilogy, and I'll be reading the first 2 pages of chapter 1. Just to let you know, this is the first vlog I've ever done, so please just bear with me. Anyways, I'm gonna get started. Chapter 1, Fate. The patient records department of the hospital where I was working was painfully quiet, as usual for the graveyard shift. Hired to that time slot initially, as most new employees were, I had chosen to stay even after opportunities for day shifts became available. I had no children, no boyfriend, and the night suited me. Alone in the department one evening, I listened to the rain drumming softly against the window while entering lab results into the computer when a figure passed by the open door. Looking up, I wondered who was wandering the halls at that time of the night, and quickly dismissed it as a security guard making the rounds. What was out of the ordinary, though, was security passing by again so soon. Alan, the overweight and over-friendly guard who had been there longer than I had been alive, had been by less than an hour earlier. Looking in as he usually did and finding me alone, he had stopped by for a brief exchange. Brief on my part, at least. Though he wasn't obviously coming on to me, I always felt slightly unclean after any exchange with him, as though his words and manner held an underlying sexual intent. Other than security, it wasn't often that someone passed by my shift. Sometimes a patient having trouble sleeping, or another staff on the wayward errand passing by my door. But generally, it wasn't just me. It was just me, another employee in piles of paperwork. I glanced up at the clock. Barely 3 hours of my shift had passed, and I was uncharacteristically impatient for it to be over. Usually, I had company here, but one of the girls had recently left, the position yet to be filled. If I wasn't so used to the environment, I suppose the quiet and stillness would have been spooky. The only sound was the soft humming of the overhead lights or music from the radio, if I remembered to turn it on. Coffee would jolt me from my funk. I leaned to grab my wallet, and when I sat up again, I was face to face with the most beautiful man I had ever seen. He had been so quiet I hadn't heard him approach, and was now standing just on the other side of my cluttered desk. My breath drew in sharply. He reached out a pale hand, touching my arm so gently I almost wasn't sure he had touched me at all. Time froze in the moment. We looked into each other's eyes. I couldn't pull my gaze away, but oddly, I wasn't embarrassed or concerned about the way I was acting. That alone should have sent off warning bells. His eyes were a shade of blue I don't think I'd ever seen before, large and deep set of his face under dark arched brows. The color was luminous against the pale ivory of his skin. Rich ebony hair surrounded his face, shaggy curls hanging almost down to his shoulders, and his lips were full and slightly tinged with red. It was those lips that drew my attention most of all. He pulled them back into a smile, revealing sharp white teeth. A cold lump of unease formed in my stomach. The smile lingered, changing his features, making him seem softer, and much younger than I initially thought. My own smile felt tight, my pulse raced, and my heart beat so hard I was sure I could see the throbbing vein in my throat. A hot flush crept from my collar. My mind, curiously blank, had raised a nervous hand to my neck, and his gaze moved from my eyes to my hand. The strangest feeling I had ever experienced struck me then. An odd panic overcame me, yet I was completely drawn to this man, wanting to run away as much as I wanted to lick every inch of his body. His eyes shimmered as he stared at me with inexplicable hunger. He seemed to be struggling with the same conflicting emotions, pairing as though he wanted to kiss me or hurt me, but fighting against both. His look was so intimate, loving almost, yet so primal. The small hairs on my arms rose. It was as if I wasn't even in control of my own thoughts, let alone my actions or reactions. When he finally spoke, breaking the spell of our silent exchange, his voice was soft and low. It slipped gently over me with soft caress. I'm sorry to interrupt. I walked by and saw that you were all alone here. He had a slight accent, different momentum from the way his words were expressed. I didn't mean to bother you. He smiled again. It took a tremendous effort on my part for the words to come naturally, not too rushed. I didn't want to seem I didn't want him to see how flustered I was and how much of his presence affected me. You're not bothering me. I was just about to take a break, actually. I indicated the wall in my hand. I don't see many people down here at this time of the night. My chit-chat sounded nervous, making me self-conscious and anxious. He broke his gaze and looked about the office. I don't suppose most people will have the reason to come to this part of the hospital. The room where I sat had 2 workstations with computers. Several doors led into the main hallway and the record storage area. A supervisor's office and a small hallway ended at the employees' lunchroom were at the back. Do you always work here alone? No, at night there's usually another person here, and during the day there's quite a few staff in and out. I tried to seem nonchalant during the odd exchange, but I was silently wishing for Ellen to pass by again. And you like working at night? I thought I detected somewhat odd in his voice. Humor, perhaps, or maybe concern. His presence made me so flustered I couldn't think straight. So that was the first few pages of My Love Returnal by Liz Strange. It's the first book in the Darkest trilogy. I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for stopping by. Happy reading till next time!